Some changes are coming to Somnilopod. On today's episode, we're going to expand focus beyond just sleep and hopefully gain more awareness of our health and wellness in general. I'm Jay, and this is Somnilopod. Hello everybody, welcome back. I am so glad that we made it through the holidays. I know that's always a stressful time for everybody, but hopefully you had the opportunity to relax a little bit and sort of regain some perspective about your life. The winter months and the darker nights, they always sort of, for me, kind of lead to a lot of self-awareness stuff. And as I've gotten older, and hopefully a little wiser, I've realized something that a lot of people may have overlooked. Sleep doesn't live in isolation. It's tangled up with how we eat, how we move, how stressed we are, how connected we feel, and how we're taking care of ourselves overall. And since the beginning, this podcast has been about sleep. Good sleep. Bad sleep, no sleep. The kind of sleep that fixes you and the kind that leaves you staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. However, there is a larger conversation to be had, I feel. These days, when I think about sleep, I'm also thinking about health in general. I think about wellness, and not really in a flashy influencer kind of way, but in the very real, very human sense. Things like my energy level, my resilience, my mood, and how I recover from illness or injury. I think more about the long game than I did when I was younger. When I was younger, I didn't really give health so much of a concern. But things like how I want to feel not just tomorrow morning, but 5 or 10 years from now. And the truth is, the conversations I'm having with listeners and with friends and with family are less about quick fixes, although quick fixes can help, but they're more about sustainable well-being. So I've decided to expand the topics that I cover to include those things as well. Things we think about as we get older. We'll still talk science, we'll still bust myths, and still normalize the struggle of restless nights, but we'll also widen the lens. We'll explore habits and mindsets and small daily choices that support both sleep and a healthier life. Because good sleep, good health, and overall wellness aren't really separate goals. They're all part of the same story. And I think it's a story that's worth telling and worth talking about, especially as we keep moving forward together. And I keep mentioning as I get older, I'm part of the Gen X generation. And as I do research, I notice that certain specific topics and complaints from the Gen X generation tend to come to the forefront. So I want to talk a little bit about some of those things today. And honestly, I was really surprised. If you as well are part of Generation X, stress probably doesn't show up as a crisis anymore. It shows up more as a constant hum. And I think that can be said about a lot of things today in a lot of different generations. Only the type of stress may be a little different. It's there when you wake up. It follows you through your day, and it's especially loud when you finally lay down at night and expect sleep to just happen. For many Gen Xers, stress isn't tied to one single problem. It's the accumulation of everything. Work demands, financial pressure, family responsibilities, health concerns, and that quiet awareness that life feels heavier than it used to. Not really worse, just heavier. And chronic stress like that has a way of sneaking into your sleep. Stress used to be situational, a deadline, a rough patch, a short season of chaos. Now, for many of us, it's the background music of daily life. There's money stress, retirement that feels too close and not close enough at the same time. There's work stress, job security, productivity expectations, the pressure to keep up in a changing world, learning new systems, figuring out new ways to do things that we never really had to do before. There's family stress, being needed by people in multiple directions at once. And none of this shuts off at night. From a sleep perspective, chronic stress keeps the nervous system on alert. Your body doesn't know the difference between a real emergency and a long to-do list that never ends. If your system doesn't feel safe, it doesn't prioritize rest. So when your brain keeps replaying the day at 2 a.m., it's not a failure of willpower. It's a sign that your system hasn't been given permission to stand down yet. And one of the tricky things about Gen X is that we don't always use mental health language. We're more likely to say things like, I'm exhausted, I feel off, I don't really feel like myself anymore. Burnout doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like emotional flatness, low motivation, poor concentration, a short fuse, and very often disrupted sleep. Anxiety in midlife isn't always racing thoughts or panic. Sometimes it's just a persistent worry, a sense of unease, or the feeling that you're always behind, even when you're doing everything you can. Sleep and mental health are deeply intertwined. Anxiety makes it harder to fall asleep. Poor sleep makes anxiety louder. Burnout drains the energy your brain needs to regulate emotions. If this sounds familiar, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've been running on empty for a long time. And sleep problems are often an early warning sign for many Gen Xers that something is amiss. Trouble falling asleep, light or restless sleep, and waking up too early and not being able to get back to sleep. These issues rarely show up out of nowhere. They're often the canary in the coal mine. Sleep is a sensitive system. It reacts quickly to stress, hormonal changes, pain, discomfort, and mental load, and midlife tends to stack all of those things at once. And here's an important reframe. Sleep problems aren't the enemy. They're information. They're your body's way of saying something needs attention. Trying to force sleep, watching the clock, judging yourself, panicking about tomorrow. Oh my God, if I don't get more sleep, I just won't be able to function. Those things usually make things worse. Improving sleep often means reducing pressure and not adding more rules per se. And with midlife comes a new awareness of the body. Heart health, blood pressure, weight changes, blood sugar, cancer risks, chronic aches that don't bounce back like they used to. Even when these aren't immediate medical problems, the awareness alone can be stressful. And stress has a habit of surfacing when things get quiet. Nighttime is when worry gets airtime. The mind starts asking questions it avoided during the day. What if something is wrong? What if I waited too long? And what if this gets worse? Those thoughts don't just live in the mind, they activate the body. Heart rates increase, muscles tense, sleep becomes lighter and more fragile. This doesn't mean you shouldn't care about your health. It means your system may need reassurance, not fear, in order to rest. And have you ever heard of Gen X being called the sandwich generation? Many Gen Xers are carrying responsibilities in both directions at once. They're supporting children who still need emotional and financial or logistical help, and they're caring for parents who are aging, ill, or declining. And sometimes they're doing both of those things at the same time. And this sandwich generation role is exhausting and often invisible. There's grief mixed with responsibility, and guilt mixed with love, and very little space to process all of that. Caregiving stress doesn't clock out at bedtime. At night, when distractions fade, the weight of responsibility can feel even heavier. And again, sleep becomes lighter, the brain stays half awake, listening for the next thing that might go wrong. And if you're in this stage of life and your sleep has changed, it's not because you've forgotten how to sleep. It's because you're carrying a lot. If there's one thing I want my fellow Generation X listeners to hear clearly, it's this. Your sleep struggles make sense. They are not a personal failure. They're a human response to a demanding season of life. Improving sleep doesn't start with perfection. It starts with compassion, understanding, and small adjustments that tell your nervous system it's safe to rest. And we can build from there together. I hope this has been interesting for you. If you have any questions or if you have any topics that sort of go alongside sleep and have to do with health and wellness in general, please let me know. You can touch base with me at j@somnilopod.com. You can also reach out to me on Facebook and Instagram and what's the other one? YouTube as well. So touch base with me if you have any questions. And until we talk again, please remember to make sleep a priority. Thanks so much.